The anime begins with a boy named Haruto, and Haruto will move from the city he lives in and go to his lover to say goodbye to her before he goes. And he promises her that when he grows up he will marry her so that they stay together forever. After that, Haruto grows up and is riding a bus, and he looks at a little girl on the bus. But the bus collides with a train, and everyone on the bus dies. And suddenly, Haruto wakes up in the body of a child in another world, and he keeps remembering some of his memories before he died in the other world. And some people entered, and Haruto works for these people, and they have a big bag. Then Haruto comes out of the place to look for some food because he is hungry, and when he finds some berries and eats them, he remembers his memories from his other world. But he stops thinking and says to himself, I am real now, and I live in this hateful neighborhood until I avenge my mother's death. And then 4 ladies come to him and ask him if he saw a girl with purple hair, but he tells them that he has not seen her. But a girl named Celia approaches him and gently asks him where this girl is, but he tells her that he does not know where she is but gives them some information that can help them search for that girl. And then Celia uses a magic spell to search for the girl, but she finds nothing, and she is surprised that Rio also has magical power, and she thanks him for the information he gave them. Rio rewards him and gives him money. Rio hangs this money on his neck in order to hide it and then runs back to the place where he works. But when he opened the door, a masked man stabbed him with a knife in the chest, but the money saved him from being stabbed. And when Rio looked around, he found everyone killed. And when the masked man approached him to kill him, he heard the voice of a girl calling his name. Then she appears in front of him and tells him that he does not have much time and he have to use his magical power to defend himself. And she approaches him and kisses him in order to increase his power and then disappears. And then Rio stands and repels the blow of the masked man and remembers his fighting skill when he was Haruto and enters into a fight with the masked man when the masked man attacked Rio again. Rio was able to knock him down and knock him unconscious. Then Rio hears a voice from the bag that the men brought at first. And when he opened the bag, he found what he expected, which is that purple-haired girl that the ladies were looking for. And the girl cries and begs him to save her and tells him to take her to the palace and her father will reward him. Then the girl sees one of the murdered men and loses consciousness from the scene. Then Rio carries her to take her back to the palace, and on his way, the ladies see him. One of them comes to him and slaps him, and she thinks that he lied to them and that he is the one who kidnapped the girl. One of the ladies raises her sword and puts it on Rio's neck, and the name of this lady is Vancha. Rio tells them that he saved her and not kidnapped her, but Vancha insists that she take Rio with them to the palace until the girl wakes up to tell them everything and make sure of his words. Then the city police come to the place where the girl was located, and they arrest the man who was defeated by Rio. But there was a man standing among the people who took out a red stone and broke it, and when he did, the man they captured died. And that man leaves the place and goes. After that we go to the palace, and the deputy commander of the Royal Guard Knights, whose name is Charles, he is torturing Rio and wants Rio to admit that he is complicit in the kidnapping of that girl. And we know that the kidnapped girl is the princess of the kingdom, and her name is Flora. But Rio insists that he did not participate in the kidnapping of the princess, and then Flora wakes up and knows that Rio saved her, but he is being investigated now, and she says she wants to meet Rio, and Vancha goes to get permission from the king. Then we return to Rio, and the commander of the knights, Charles, tortures Rio strongly to admit that he contributed to the kidnapping of the princess, but Rio denies this, so Charles continues to torture him, and one of the guards tells him that if he continues to torture him, he will die. We conclude that Charles does all this until he finds someone to blame him for the kidnapping of the princess, because he is responsible for protecting her and the members of the royal family, and Celia and Fancy suddenly intervene on them, and they are shocked by Rio's condition and what Charles did, and she tells him that he saved the princess, and then they take him down and approach Celia to treat him with healing magic, and after Rio improves, he wakes up and finds Celia next to him, and when he asks where he is, Celia tells him that he is in the royal palace. Celia apologizes to Rio for what the deputy commander of the guard did, Charles, did, and tells him that he got permission to meet the king in order to express his gratitude for saving the princess. Then, Rio asks Celia to teach him the manners of the interview so that he can behave well when he meets the king. Celia agrees, And the day comes to meet Ryo with the king and the royal family. And when he entered Ryo, everyone was shocked by his appearance and his behavior. The king rewards Ryo by saying that he will study at the Royal Academy, and Celia is a teacher at the academy because of her intelligence despite her young age, and Celia knows the students to Ryo. But the students are angry about the presence of Ryo because he is from the poor neighborhoods, and Ryo introduces himself and tells the students that he went to this academy thanks to the generosity and kindness of the king and hopes that everyone will treat him positively. But one of the students bullies him and everyone laughs. And then Ryo sits in his seat, and the teacher Celia gives them a mathematical problem to solve, and she tells Ryo not to pressure himself because it is his first day, and everyone thinks that Ryo will not be able to solve that mathematical problem. After the end of the school day, Ryo goes to Celia to learn to read, and when he enters her room, he finds the place chaotic, and Celia apologizes to him for the mess in the place. Ryo shows a lot of books and tells Celia that she looks young. Celia tells him that she is 12 years old and should have attended primary school. But she skipped many years and graduated from high school and became a teacher at the academy. And Ryo is amazed by Celia's intelligence. And Celia gives Ryo some multiplication and division problems to solve, and all Ryo's answers are correct. And Celia is surprised by his answers and tells him that no one can solve these mathematical problems in his class other than Princess Christina. And Princess Christina, she is the older sister of Princess Flora. But this is self-evident to Ryo, because he remembers some of his memories when Haruto was a university student, and Celia asks him where he studied arithmetic, and Ryo tells her that his deceased mother taught him, and then Celia prepares some tea. And Ryo asks her about some books to learn the letters, and Celia nominates some books for him to learn from. And then the students are in the knight's class, and the teacher notices Ryo's agility in using the sword, and says he can attack him in any way he sees fit. And everyone is surprised by Ryo's situation, and Ryo remembers his training when Haruto was. The attack on the teacher begins, and Ryo's skill is very high and everyone is surprised by it, and the teacher tells Ryo that he will become a great knight. But Ryo tells him that he does not want to join the knights and thanks him for his kind words. And then Ryo is studying hard because of the approaching date of the exams. And the exam date comes and Ryo begins to solve the questions. And when Ryo comes out of the exam and sees everyone together, he remembers his childhood when it was Haruto. And the name of this girl is Ayase Haru. And when Haruto's parents separated, they both parted, but they met in high school. But Ayase disappeared, and they never met again. The day of the exam result comes, and Ryo is the first in his class, along with Princess Christina. And everyone is surprised by the result. When Ryo arrived, the boys accused him of using a trick and cheating in the exams. But one of the students defends him and tells them that there is no evidence of cheating. And Celia comes after her and tells them that Ryo worked hard and was studying hard, and she testifies to that. But a boy named Alphonse tells them that he will not accept it and leaves them. He goes and Celia congratulates Ryo on getting first place in the exams, but she is worried because of the bullying of the sons of nobles on him. But Ryo reassures her and tells her that he is not interested. And Ryo asks her if she was also bullied because she was a genius. Celia tells him that she was also bullied, but she had friends. But Ryo tells her that he owns you. So Celia is ashamed of his words. And Ryo tells her that if she encounters a problem one day, advise me as my teacher and friend. And then the two spend quality time together. And 5 years pass, and the students are in the knight's class. And the teacher tells them that he will choose students from them to participate in an exhibition competition against the knights of the kingdom. And the teacher chooses Alphonse and another boy named Stuart and Ryo. But Alphonse objects to choosing Ryo to participate in the competition, because he is a commoner and cannot use magic. But the teacher says that he will not accept any objections. And then Ryo sits with Celia, and she tells him that if you will do well in the competition, the writers will choose you before you graduate. And Ryo will be taller than before, and Celia will be happy that 5 years have passed and they are friends. And ask him Celia what will he do when he graduates, since he does not want to become a knight. Ryo tells her that he wants to visit his father's place of upbringing as his mother promised him when he was young. Celia is sad that he will leave her, and she tells him to work here because he has a way of arranging the place that makes it clean. He also prepares delicious tea. But Rio thanks her and tells her that your marriage will be discussed soon and that it is not good to have a person from the public in your research laboratory. The day of the competition comes, and the referee is a knight named Alfred Emerald, and he is very popular in the kingdom. And the first challenge begins between Rio and a knight named Charles. And Charles is the one who tortured Rio when he was young. And because of Charles' torture to Rio, his rank is down. The two want revenge and start fighting, and Rio can beat Charles. And everyone is surprised by his style of fighting. And then Charles sits with a man, and he is very angry because of his defeat. And he tells him that this boy was involved in the kidnapping of Princess Flora 5 years ago. And the man sitting with him is the same one who killed the man who attacked Rio in the beginning. And after the competition, Rio's fame increases in the academy, and the girls start giving him messages of admiration. And Celia sees it all and is very moved. After that, Celia forms the students' plans after graduation and finds Rio the only one who did not write his plans. And we go to the academy. Celia teaches students how to use magic, but Alphonse interrupts her words and says that everyone can use magic except for one person, and he means Rio. Celia asks him to use magic, he and Stuart, but their magic is weak. And Celia uses lightning magic, and her magic is very strong, and all students are surprised. And Rio happy with what Celia did. Rio can't use ordinary magic, but he can use magic called Spirit Art. And after the class ends, Stuart goes and praises the magic of teacher Celia. And when Rio is on his way out, Stuart stops him and accuses him of seducing female students. But Celia tells him that he cannot accuse anyone without evidence. But Stuart tells her that he tried to flirt with her too, but she denies that Rio did it. And before Stuart goes, he tells Rio that if he does anything, Yukyogno's house won't stay silent. And then Rio goes, and Princess Flora sees all that, and she's sad that she can't return Rio's favor when he saved her. And then the students have hands-on training, and their leader in the training is Alphonse, and he tells them that they have to go out of the forest and arrive at sunset, but he got a shortcut to arrive at noon, and he got that way from one of the servants in Stuart's house. And when they go, Stuart tells Rio to carry everyone's things, because he will be an obstacle for them because he cannot use magic. And Rio agrees because he does not want to create problems with anyone, and Flora goes to him and offers to carry the things with him. But Rio thanks her and continues his way. And on their way, he appears in front of them are some monsters named Goblin, and those monsters are weak. And Alphonse tells them to use tools to enhance their physical abilities, and students can easily overcome the monsters. And Rio is not interested in what is happening because he feels that someone is watching him, and there is actually someone watching Rio. And he is the same man from the kidnapping incident, and he is surprised that Rio noticed his presence from that great distance. And the students come out of the forest, but the road is at the end of it a slope, and the road they got is a wrong road. And suddenly monsters called orcs attack them, and they are strong monsters. And one of the spears hits Stuart in his foot and pushes him one of the students and collides with Princess Flora, and she falls from the top of the cliff. But Rio jumps behind her, and he can save her with his magic, and the students can defeat the monsters but difficulty. And then Stuart says that Rio is the one who pushed him on Princess Flora to exonerate himself, and the boys agree on that story. And Rio hears everything and knows that he cannot graduate from the academy because when he returns he will be accused of trying to kill the princess, and the students have abandoned Rio. But Flora stops them and tells them that she will look for Rio even if she goes alone, because she thinks that he is injured from falling from the top of the cliff. Suddenly they hear a voice from the forest, and a very strong monster appears, and the students are terrified of the monster, and they attack the monster. But all attacks are in vain because it is very strong, and the monster defeats all the students, and the students run away from it, except for Flora because one of the students is injured and she was trying to treat him. And when the monster is going to eliminate Flora, Rio appears and cuts off the monster's arm with one blow. Rio enters into a fight with a monster. Rio can defeat the monster and cut off his head easily, and the students come to check on Flora, and Rio leaves them and goes without anyone seeing him. And that man is still watching Rio, and he is the one who made the monster attack the students in order to test Rio's strength and be amazed by his strength. And then Celia is on her way to the king, and she hears Stuart and his father talking about Rio and placing the blame on him for what happened in training. But the king knows that Rio is a good boy, but he supports them because the strength of the royal family is currently weak, and tells him that he leaves the rest on him. And Celia is sad because of what she heard, because she does not know what happened. And at night, Rio goes to Celia, and Celia is very worried about Rio. And then they sit down and Rio tells her about everything that happened, and Celia is angry with what she heard, but Rio tells her that he will go and thank her for his help and interest in him all those years, and tells her that he will write to her constantly but with a fake name he is Haruto. And Celia says goodbye to him and tells him that she will wait for him to come back again and wait for his messages. And then Rio goes, and Celia is crying hard because Rio is gone. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on the like and write your opinion in the comments.